Move on to item 5, the regional defence cluster support discussion with Andy.
Sorry, folks, it's a bit of an Andy show today. I'll shut up next meeting. This came about. I wanted to do this because it came about discussions with the likes of Lawrence and Dan and Nigel, and I think Lawrence and Dan had said, can I put it there? They weren't confident in a bid, and then myself and Nigel got together and had a rant with each other about why don't we have a strong bid? So I've gone away and put this together because I wanted to gather that sort of intelligence from the board, and thanks to Brian from Kuhn & Nagel and Aidan Stewart from RBSL for joining us today. They're obviously going to be taking that back to their companies as major tier 1 suppliers, shall we say, and well, let's see how they fit in. Okay, so I asked the question, I spent yesterday morning asking myself the question, what should a defence cluster look like? And essentially, it's an ecosystem with structure, momentum, and a shared identity. It's a collective. And when it's done well, it behaves like a miniature industrial strategy. So we could have a Telford industrial strategy based on this. It gets coordinated, branded, and capable of winning work because it looks coherent to government and investment. It's relevant to us because we have engineering capacity is high, but visibility is low. And this is something I raised at the first Invest Telford partnership meeting, is we don't bloody shout about how good we are enough. So we need a defined core. So who are the anchor organisations? We need a credible cluster that has a centre of gravity. We'll come back to that later. It typically includes major primes of tier 1 suppliers, the local presence, so vehicle systems, electronics, cyber, logistics. Sounds familiar. A key MOD site or a procurement touchpoint within reach. Sounds a bit familiar too. Large engineering firms that already have to serve defence indirectly. No. And the skills pipeline. Colleges, universities with engineering and defence relevant expertise or are willing to build on that. Well, I think Lawrence has talked about a bit, so. And these anchors provide legitimacy and demand signals and long-term programs that smaller firms can get engaged with as well. So we engage the SME supply chains. Have we got a supporting network? So we need supply chains showing tier 2 and 3 manufacturers, all these subcontractors that have fabrication, machining, composites, electronics supplies that feed into these tier 1 suppliers. Specialist SMEs, talking about cyber, software, robotics, AI, 3D modeling. I think we've got a few of those in the area. Enablers such as testing labs, certification bodies, logistics training providers, again, and adjacent sector firms with transferable capability. All that you can see there. Supply chain mapping work shows density, capability, and gaps. I don't think we've got too many gaps, but there probably is some. We need a clear brand and narrative. So we need a story that the tier 1 suppliers and MOD can instantly understand. So what is the region known for? Well, it's the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution for a start. We've got land systems, autonomy, advanced manufacturing. Telford is known for these things. So what differentiates it from other UK clusters? That's what I want to find out. And why is it low risk and high value for defence buyers? How can we identify what the win is for them? So how does it align to national priorities? So resilience, business continuity, sovereign capability, rapid prototyping, that instant demand, rapid deployment. There's a key one there that Nigel informed me about that I didn't realise and make the connection. We'll talk about that in a minute. What's the governance and coordination structure? So these clusters don't self-organise, they need some direction, which is where Dan comes in. You need a convening body, a public-private partnership consortium or CIC. Do we know anybody who does that? I don't know, I'm not sure about that. Steering group, representing primes, SMEs, academia, so be members of the board, for example. Cluster manager or small secretarial events, could be Invest Telford. Clear membership models, how do we get these people involved? And then the collectiveness of a joint bid. Joint bids meet the buyers' events shows that we're collectively on the same page and can deliver a clear message. And the pipeline intelligence shared across members. Hello, this is what we're doing here. So without this, clusters drift into networking groups rather than engines of growth. So this collectiveness of bringing all that stakeholder map and the other elements that Dan can bring, and now the likes of Ross too, can bring these together. So we've got a stronger bid. Do we have a skills and workforce pipeline? So do we have apprenticeship pathways aligned to defence needs? Well, historically, I think we've got that. Upskilling programs for digital system and advanced manufacturing, doing that now. Veteran transition schemes to address the skill losses. So one of the key things we raised with European Innovations that I've got a solution for now is retirements. People just buggering off with their knowledge off to enjoy the rest of their lives. So how do we build in knowledge-based systems that capture that before they go? STEM outreach. So Telford has this historical STEM problem, or it's not problem, issue, opportunity, shall we say, that can bring in these people and work within this cluster, provide employment, skills, jobs. And then looking at the infrastructure enablers, physical and digital infrastructure matters. Telford has a digital infrastructure. We've got secure facilities. And the opportunities for companies like Turtec, for example, to tap into this. And transport and logistics connectivity, have we got that? Well, Nagel would argue that. Digital infrastructure, 5G, cyber secure networks, specialism that you can bring, and specialist equipment, ranges, simulation suites, and all this. RBSL simulation suite, unbelievable. So in summary, a regional defence cluster is a coordinated, branded ecosystem of first-tier suppliers and primes, SMEs, research bodies, skill providers, and enablers, organised around a shared capability narrative. Let's let Mark back in. Obviously, the train's gone through a tunnel. Supported by governance and geared towards innovation and business development. Okay, so what? So how's this applied to Telford? What's Telford's centre of gravity? How's this applied to Telford? So we've got MOD Donington, one of two major supply centres for the MOD in the UK. But what's the advantage of Donington? It's newer. It's got newer high-tech defence fulfilment centre. It's got that investment in already, and Dan said that new investment coming in. We have political links. We have an MP who is the Parliamentary Post Secretary for Defence. How is this not an open goal? Anyway, with our supply chain, we've got tier 1 and 2 suppliers. We've got precision engineering, advanced manufacturing, vehicle systems, electronics, material development. First tier suppliers, nationally recognised and internationally recognised here. And that development, again, with the likes of Proto Labs and even Rico, go back to Rico, their 3D prototype manufacturing that could make prototypes that go into new models that become actual products that go into the defence sector. Got all that associated large and SME engineering suppliers. So that must be an advantage. We have a skills pipeline. We have Telford College, Harper Adams, European Innovations, bring that, as I mentioned before, this skills hierarchy, skills pipeline that's already there and works, as we've seen from the overview at the beginning. And we've got that ties to the robotics again, to the Warwick Manufacturing Group automation. So some of us have been there, some of us have seen it, it's not just down the road. So that's where some of the stuff from the future is there today. So we've got engineering and AI development. This centres of excellence for AI are being developed here in Telford. That leads to automation and robotics development as well. Talking about veteran skills and links, we've got RF Cosford down the road, Hereford, as Dan mentioned, they might have their own cluster there, but we can tie into that skills that's already there, that historical, traditional skills, engineering availability, that knowledge of where things have gone wrong or how products can be developed better, can be tapped into. In terms of infrastructure and logistics, affordable Telford and Wrekin industrial spaces there already if they want to develop and build more companies that feed into this cluster. We've got the Invest Telford support. We've already talked about the support we've given to the M54 new M6 link. TBB have been active in that and making that happen. And it's now supposedly going to happen. And then we've got, as Nigel pointed out, starkingly obvious, we've got a railway hub that goes directly to the front lines in Europe. So we can deliver stored equipment from here on a train, take it, freight it through to the front lines in Europe. Does it get any better than that? Yes, it does, because we can provide business sustainability support, working on environmental aspects to improve productivity, efficiency, and business continuity to these supply chain actors that we've got in the area through the Business Board, TSEC, and Shropshire Chamber. So it strikes me that that's a bit of a strong bid. So why aren't we confident about getting this across the line? So a defence cluster, a Telford defence cluster, should be a land systems and autonomy focused ecosystem built on established engineering, rapid prototyping, and cross-sector innovation. Should be anchored by innovation and skills pipeline, powered by a dense SME supply chain, and branded as the UK Centre for Mission Critical Engineering. My question to you all is, why isn't this a winner? What else is needed? So I open the floor to questions.
So Andy, I mean, it's astonishing, it's remarkable, it's fantastic. It doesn't get any better than that, in my opinion. As far as the own goal goes, or open goal, sorry, the two things I'm not really sure about is, one, how do we formalize this and bring structure to it? And then two, how do we utilize our strong links to government, which Dan alluded to earlier in his presentation, with our strong links to the MPs? Is there a formal process that this structure is created and then, for want of a better word, applies to become a cluster? So I think the next step is the formalization of everything you've talked about into a bid to be recognised as one of the few defence centres of excellence in the United Kingdom. And how do we get that endorsed as a reality at the front line of politics? And then I think the rest, sort of, with all the incumbent effort and energy and commitment, would be clearly identifiable as a roadmap. And I'm sure all of the businesses and supporting structures, education, careers, etc., would be following the same set of marching orders. So those are the only two things that are missing for me, and that can well be just my state of knowledge.
I caveat that, Nigel, with my state of knowledge too. But yeah, what's the route to market? Lawrence?
Yeah, just a couple of things to add from a college perspective. So the government have launched something called Technical Excellence Colleges. Wave one was just 10 construction technical excellence colleges across the UK, well, across England. And the Construction Technical Excellence College in our region is based in Dudley, and we're linked to that. Now, in wave two, there was advanced manufacturing, digital, but also defence. Now, the college was seriously considering and had the intention of bidding to become a defence technical excellence college. And when we started on that journey to get to that point, it became very clear that we really would need the support of the West Midlands Combined Authority, but also the East Midlands as well. And that's very much linked to the defence and security blueprint for the Midlands that both mayors launched. Was it the week before last? I think that was. I can put a link to that document in the chat if anybody wants to read it. And what that aims to do is almost create a Midlands belt of defence industry support and so on, because it recognises that defence covers quite a large area, and in relation to the rest of England, unless you bring all of that together, the individual areas, Walsall does some stuff, Lincoln does some stuff. We do within Telford, not just at the college, but income training as well. It's separately, it can't compete with the larger defence clusters that are around the country, but bring it together almost as a Midlands belt, and then there's an opportunity to do that. Within the defence and security blueprint for the Midlands, Shropshire, Telford and Wrekin are included in that as part of that. Now, in order for us to become a defence tech, we needed what the Midlands combined authorities to support us. And it became clear to us that in order to get that support, the college would need the pipeline already in place for the defence industry. So, for example, some of the colleges are working with Rolls-Royce and Babcock and so on in a much deeper way than we at the college are. And we're just, I think, just coming into it, beginning on that journey. So it may be that in terms of the Defence Technical Excellence College, we form part of a broader Defence Technical Excellence College network within the region that's being described. We're just looking at that and in discussions about that at the moment. Now, what that will mean is the potential for some capital investment at the college that would support the specific local skills that are needed to support our cluster of defence industry. But I think we need to recognise how connected it all is. So, for example, there's Babcock here, the Babcock, Walsall College do some work with Babcock, Income Training do some work with Babcock, and so on. My last college, Babcock, did some work with Group Clondalkin in Northwest Wales. So it's about ensuring that these companies have access to the skills that they need locally, but that fits into their national strategies as well. And that's pretty much an unload of everything that I've learned as we've gone on this journey over the past month. The deadline for application is pretty much 2 weeks away. It's a very short process, and the Ministry of Defence will decide who the Defence Technical Excellence colleges are. Apologies, bit of a lengthy input, but I just wanted to share with everybody everything that I kind of know, and Sarah here today also knows probably a lot more than I do.
Thanks, Florence. Yeah, park that one. So see how we can support it. Daniel.
Yeah, morning. Hi, Andy. So just coming back on a couple of the points. So I'd spoke to Jax, and I unfortunately I did let her know a little bit late last night that Charlie Hopkirk from the CA, who is interim chair of the regional defence cluster, is aiming to join us just after 9. He was on a late train, but he's going to log in as quickly as he can. Before he does that, I just wondered if it'd be okay to flash up almost a structure image that I took from one of the recent defence cluster meetings that I was part of. So Telford and Wrekin, it's important to note here, Telford and Wrekin, through myself, now have a seat on both the working and steering groups for the regional defence cluster. The image here gives you, and I apologise if Charlie comes into the meeting in a few minutes and then reiterates some of this, but I thought useful to give the context. This is what it looks like from a sort of a national policy down to a regional/local delivery perspective. So Lawrence is bang on, absolutely. That Midlands Defence and Security Industrial Council, that chunk of blue there, is almost a joint venture between East and West Midlands Combined Authority. I suppose the point I'm trying to make here, Andy, is that a lot of the work on the slides that you showed there and those proposals for a sort of local defence cluster are happening, albeit slightly slower than perhaps all of us would like, given the amount of partners that are connected through this. So the MOD approached the CA some months ago to discuss what it could look like from a regional perspective. Now, if you just do a simple and crude Google of defence clusters, most, if not all of them, are situated in combined or mayoral strategic authorities. So in a long-winded and sort of unnecessary way, perhaps, I'm trying to answer that a lot of that proposal document, those slides you presented, it is happening. It's just going to be part of playing ball, I guess, with the West Midlands Combined Authority and partners. I was sort of inviting Charlie so that he could field some of the questions on this, but I'm happy to try and answer some of them, given that we have got a seat at the table.
Seat at the table is important. It's how we can help you articulate the strengths that we have here.
Yes.
Just that fits into that wonderful jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
I've lost the screen. Leave the screen on. Fliss, I think you were next.
I took my hand back down, lovely Andy. I thought I'd wait and see what the insights to come were. I mean, all I was going to really suggest, I wasn't sure what our connection in with JASA was, whether we were registered on the innovation competition as an innovation partner, if we had a connection there, what our PR and kind of brand campaign was as a collective. We've got brilliant representation by, academia, brilliant representation by industry and commerce. Where are we from the sort of government perspective in terms of directed advocacy? Are we giving people sound bites so that they can repeat those on our behalf? We all need to be repeating the same few very, very powerful messages so that we start getting cut through. Just a few thoughts, but yeah, are we linked in with JASA? I mean, the work that's being done with the West Midlands Combined Authority and then obviously the combination is fantastic, but we've also got the ability to start making our own identity separate that will only stand us in good stead with the wider organisation. Sorry, my background's BAE, so I've just spent the last year and a half working with Leonardo and defence clusters across Middle East and UK, so I'm well up for this.
Wow. Thus speaks the Empress of public relations. You're welcome back, Fliss.
Oh, thanks, missed you.
Thank you.
Andy, could I come back on a couple of those? Sorry,
yes.
if it's all right to provide a bit. So context, I guess, Fliss, thank you for that. Great point. So absolutely, we continue with local promotion of defence supply chain capability, etc. And I think we do that, and hopefully Ross is nodding, I can't see him at the minute, through the Telford Defence Growth Zone documentation and what that looks like in its next iteration. So the local work continues. At the regional level, there is the SDSC defence event next week in Birmingham. And I know that members of the steering and working groups for the regional defence cluster are on a couple of panels. They're in some of the talks, one of which is Andrew from the Midlands Aerospace Alliance. And I think, and hopefully Charlie reiterates this if and when he joins this call, is that we start to drip feed news and information about the West Mids Regional Defence Cluster at the Defence Conference and Exhibition SDSC next week, Wednesday, when it's split between 2 days. The first day, very much supply chain procurement conversations, and then the next day, if you like, they let us lot in, so we're allowed to attend more of an expo style session with speakers, etc. And I think they've earmarked that as the day that we start to drip feed, start to, you know, slowly catchy monkey release information about our own defence cluster. So hopefully that answers a couple of the comms questions there.
So how can we support you with that? What information can you take from this today and the potential collective intelligence that we can put on the table that you can take to those forums so they understand the strength that we have here?
I keep reiterating the points you made, Andy, really, which I hope I've done in the early stages of the defence cluster. I certainly feel like one of the more impassioned members of the group, and it's not been lost on me that I guess without a regional defence cluster, conversations internally at Telford and Wrekin Council, that we'd look at our own, we'd look at what that means for Telford. I guess the fact that the regional cluster is backed by MOD, DASA, etc., it just felt right to I guess involve ourselves at the regional level.
Are we able to do both, Dan?
I think so.
The only reason I'm thinking, so I was involved in lobbying for the defence sector a long time ago, and the one thing that I learned is to kind of have that two-pronged approach, so that you do the formal briefing, you attend, you give the talks, you shake the hands, but then also you start concentrating on applying the additional pressure of, you know, what's to stop us getting a really nice meaty media feature, you know, getting one of the get the Telegraph up here, looking at, you know, defence clusters, looking at innovation, looking at collaboration. I don't know, we can find some kind of interesting article, angle, whatever it might be. I know that the big pressure at the moment is on the search for positive headlines. And if we can provide some of those, that usually helps us become one of the more popular people at the table. Just a few thoughts then. If I can help with any of that, I'm really happy to have a conversation offline. Sorry, Andy, I bet you're really glad you invited me now, aren't you?
I am. Yes, I'm just conscious of you need to be giving advice. Leave it there. Yeah. Good. On the same page with that. Ross.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. And morning, everyone. I've not introduced myself yet. I'm Ross Cook. Still fairly new executive director for Place at Telford and Wrekin Council. So it's a pleasure to be with you this morning and hear the conversation. Probably just to pick up the Felicity's comments and what Dan was just saying in terms of, you know, our own bid for this. I think it just fits the sort of tone that we've picked up locally in terms of the links with combined authorities, devolution. The key message for me is around, no matter what, we have our pitch sorted, so that whatever the question is, we know what's right for Telford and Wrekin, and we're very clear, whether it's an official defence cluster such as this, or whether it's what we would call it a defence cluster of our own. Naturally, we want to bid for the big prize, and we want the government backing and funding for those sorts of things. But irrespective of that, and I think the conversation you started, Andy, has shown that we've got that strength anyway. So how do we pitch that to whoever needs to know what is here in Telford, and what those opportunities are? Certainly back in Lawrence and Sarah with their bids in terms of the defence tech and what we can do to show that skills pipeline as well. So there's a lot of work that we can still do no matter what. And I think, as Dan's clearly said, that there is a structure. We want to make sure that whatever our pitch is follows that structure, but we want to do that. And as I said, we're doing the same, whether it is talking around future combined authorities. Our answer is make sure it's right for Telford, and make sure people know what we've got here. So I think carrying on this conversation and picking up the narrative of how we can pitch this is really important.
Thanks, Ross. The question for me is, does Sean know all this? And does Sean have those sort of sound bites? Like I say, it's a shame we don't know who the Parliamentary Post Secretary for Defence is. But how do we get him on the message? How do we get him promoting Telford without obviously doing a conflict of interest? Which is why I asked Jenny earlier on about these MP roundtables. I think we need to sit in front of him and say, what are you doing? Do you know about this? Do you want to take, as Nigel alluded before he left, he suggested before taking a contingency to Parliament. Why doesn't Sean drag us down there and say, this is what we've got. Do you want it or not? And if you don't, why not? Jenny.
Just wanted to quickly say, let us certainly speak with Sean about whether we can have our next roundtable with him on this subject.
Oh, sure. But
I'm sure he'd be happy to, and we certainly get a very good cross section of businesses around the table, and people like yourself to be able to talk about this. So let's see if we can get that on the agenda for our next roundtable with him.
Brilliant suggestion, thank you. Does that tie in with you, Dan?
That's fine. I was just going to say, Andy, that Sean is aware of this piece of work at the regional level, because I managed to catch him just before Christmas. So he's clear that this work's ongoing. But obviously, I haven't had discussions, probably more at Ross's level, I guess, around what that means for Telford from a local perspective.
Yeah, so let's collectively get in front. I literally want to beat him over the head with this. He's got to understand what the strength is here. It's really just a sense check. I mean, he might well understand what we've got, but I'd like a sense check to make sure that we're all on the same page, and he goes with the strength of message that we have from this board and the collective stakeholder engagement that we do. I'd like to welcome Charlie.
Hi all, sorry I'm late. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, that's fine, Charlie. If you'd like to introduce who you are, that'd be brilliant.
Jogged myself through Birmingham late train. Sorry for being a little bit late. Yeah, so I'm Charlie Hopkirk. I sit in the West Midlands Combined Authority in the economy team, looking at our kind of key growth sectors. And I've been doing some work on defence over the last kind of 9 months. I saw that Dan already had one of the hopefully nice diagrams on screen.
Do you want me to flash that back up, Charlie? Is that useful to talk to?
Yeah, that wouldn't be unhelpful. I was just trying to read through the names that you were mentioning there, and just trying to work through who you were talking about and how we can kind of work together on joining some of these things up. Was that a local MP you were talking about?
It was, sure.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, I thought
almost
so.
Also the Parliamentary Post Secretary of Defence. There you go.
Yes, and I think there's certainly been some stuff in the press, or some stuff about Telford specifically in this space, and I think from my perspective, I don't know how much Dan's kind of got into this, but there's, and hopefully I'm not repeating myself if I talk about the blueprint a little bit and the council, Dan, is that all right? And then
that's okay. I gave a very, very short and sweet
update. I can keep it fairly brief as well. Do you mind if I share my slides? Actually?
Yeah, go for it.
I've got a couple that I'm using for something else today, which might help. Slideshow. Sorry. Yeah, so this is what Dan pulled up really helpfully. So I guess in response to the national policy, national perspective, strategic defence review, defence industrial strategy, we think there's real value in a Midlands-wide kind of response and strategic framework on defence. So the Midlands Engine did quite a bit of work on this when they were still around. There was a white paper, for example, talking about across the whole Midlands, and I'm not just talking about the two kind of direct combined authority areas. I'm talking, well, there is a third one in Lincolnshire as well. We're talking all the way up to Lincolnshire and all the way across to Shropshire and Herefordshire as well. That is kind of referenced in the defence industrial strategy around a Midlands defence belt. So we think there's a real opportunity in there to thinking medium long term, how can we draw in a defence growth deal, whether that be for the whole Midlands with specific hubs of particular strength, such as in Telford, or I think it's to be worked out essentially. But we think there's real value in working together across the regions. I guess ultimately there is a little bit of kind of the two combined authorities have a compact together. There's political alignment from a mayoralty perspective, so there is that kind of political piece where they can stand up and wave a document around, but in terms of an officer level and the framework being that kind of cross Midlands piece, so that's the really kind of important blueprint document that came out this week or last week, sorry, published, as I say, this month, a high level strategic direction of travel to try and steer the delivery of our kind of priorities. I guess we kind of see it as a bit of a stake in the ground, a direction of travel, saying this is important and these are our priorities in this area. So we talk about SMEs and procurement, supply chain piece, which I'm sure will be very important to companies in Telford across the patch. Piece around people and skills. I'm deliberately not going into any detail on these, but happy to pick up anything. The innovation and kind of dual use piece, drawing investment in, and then some structures to drive the delivery of some of this work. I won't go into this, but just to try and pick up on two of the structures that are forming. So first and foremost, we've set up a Midlands Defence and Security Industry Council, which will have its first meeting at the end of March. That aims to be genuinely cross-Midlands, so specifically industry, other than the two mayors, but representing companies from across the patch, both OEMs, primes, and kind of tier ones, but also supply chain across defence and security. So RBSL have got a name on that group, as have I think I can say the likes of Babcock and Rolls-Royce, Kinetic, but also SME and supply chain representation as well. So that's a kind of senior exec strategic level policy kind of pressure feeding into the regional mayors and national government. So that's a really good opportunity, I think, to drive that at a senior level. But then more kind of day to day, and a broader network for companies to engage with and involve themselves with, and hopefully eventually benefit from, is these regional defence and security clusters. So these have been going for quite a while, and they're an MOD programme which essentially is about bringing together industry, other stakeholders in defence and security within a particular place, with the idea being that companies and those stakeholders can collaborate, get kind of fuller knowledge and understanding of MOD and the MOD procurement process, and essentially provide a vehicle for representation of that sector in a place, to really drive some of that collaboration and growth opportunities. So as I say, there's 10 live across the country. So the Southwest, I think, was the first one. There's others. There's one in the East Midlands. In the West Midlands, there hasn't been one up until recent work we've been doing to set one up. And by West Midlands, we're talking the whole West Midlands region. Dan has been involved in helping us set up some of the structure so far, as has, I guess, other authorities, including Herefordshire and Warwickshire and some of our own kind of constituent local authorities. But I guess possibly more importantly, or equally as important, is having industry and industry groups on the kind of work to set that up, as well as universities and RTOs. So yeah, we're looking to launch that kind of in the spring, and eventually that will look like a visible cluster and grouping that can ultimately support companies from across the West Midlands to attend events, knowledge sharing sessions, ideally get that connection through to the MOD structures, either existing or some of the new ones that have been set up, like the Office for Defence for Small Business. I can't remember which way around those words are, but that was announced earlier this week. I think, if I'm being honest, it remains to be seen, like how much can these RDSCs really get the right bits of MOD to the table and make step change. I think the MOD have got a lot of commitments around procurement and SME spend and regional spend, but I think it remains to be seen how much impact that can really have. So I think we've got to really push them on this as a region. That's not for this meeting, sorry. So I think that's probably it for me. I suppose I'd just be interested from a Telford perspective how I mean, you just talked there, I think, implicitly about the strengths in Telford and the wider region on defence. I'd be interested to hear more about that and make sure that we can fully recognise this as a West Midlands and a wider Midlands piece.
Thank you, Charlie. God bless you for navigating that and explaining to us. Lawrence, I'll come to you in a minute. Just to give you some context on how we reckon with Spade ready. Thanks, helps us I've got my sustainability West Midlands hat on now, so I get the West Midland Combined Authority, and this belt across the West Midlands does make strategic sense. I'm just going to put up a quick slide to bore everybody. We've been talking about it for an hour, so just to reiterate, so you understand the strengths of how I think we're spade ready to meet some of those challenges. Is just quickly go over this slide that we presented earlier to say that we've got MOD Donington, and it's the newer one of the two main sites because it's got the Defence Fulfilment Centre and more investment going into it. You've got the Sean element, and then you've got the supply chain, like say RBSL. We've got Adrian Stones from RBSL today. Babcock sent their apologies, and I think it's reading between the lines, it's for that very reason that they're still engaging at senior level and can't talk about it, but they want to come to this event, this forum and share. They will be doing that. RBSL, we've got 8 Stones who'll be taking this information back to their senior leadership team. And this is all in the Telford area. Babcock's Protolabs and the associated skills on immediate prototyping. They do 3D printing. My old company, Rico, does the same thing on industrial scales, so they can meet this challenge for rapid deployment. We've got the skills pipeline. You've got Lawrence from Telford College here, and Sarah. You've got Harper Adams, European Innovation. So in Telford, we've got this quad and sixth form centre in the middle of Telford now, Southwater. That is this centre of excellence for AI development and skills development. And Lawrence is talking about a engineering centre of excellence that meets that demand as well. So we've got engineering and AI development, entrepreneur innovation, centre of excellence, automation and robotics development, all tied in. We've got links to veteran skills, Cosford and Hereford. We've got the infrastructure and logistics, so we've got affordable space. We've gone to expand on that. Invest Telford support, so Telford business support as well. You've got the new M6 link, which we've been actively promoting as well, so that get that across the line. And you've got on the doorstep, you've got a railway hub that delivers the stuff to the front line. And then you've got the business support element of this business board, Invest Telford, and a number of subgroups that I won't go into now that feed into supporting that, along with the intelligence of this board that makes it come together. So, long story short, we reckon we're spade ready as a piece of jigsaw puzzle that could fit into that overall wider West Midlands belt. Lawrence. Sorry, did you want to come back on that, Charlie?
I'm happy for Lawrence to come in, but that's really, really great. Could I possibly get a copy of just that slide? It's really helpful to have the background.
I'll deliver it by hand if you want it. So yeah definitely.
First class.
Yeah, thanks. Good to meet you, Charlie. I'm Lawrence Wood. I'm the Principal and Chief Executive Officer at Telford College. I was just curious. We've been having discussions with the Combined Authority from a skills perspective as part of Colleges West Midlands about the Defence Technical Excellence colleges. And it looks as though what we're going to do is form a bit of a consortium with Lincolnshire, East West Mids and Telford and Wrekin to kind of ensure that the region has the best possible bid going forward that really challenges some of the other areas as well in the UK. To make the MOD's life in terms of the selection process difficult for them, that our proposition is really quite strong. And I wonder whether you've had any involvement in that and whether it might be useful for perhaps you and some of the colleges that are interested in this Defence Technical Excellence College model, perhaps getting together to ensure that we're absolutely aligned with what the vision is and what the strategy or the blueprint is actually talking about.
Thanks, Lawrence. Yeah, I've been speaking with colleagues in our kind of skills team about that. So that I think at a high level, there's that alignment to say, we think this makes sense to draw our resources across the Midlands and retain that kind of Midlands belt piece and that blueprint. But yeah, in terms of taking that next step, once that kind of consortium and bid comes together, I think you're right that it certainly makes sense to make clear that is aligning to what we're talking about here. And I think, even just coming to this call probably makes me think that we possibly, well, we do need to do more now. The blueprint's there and these structures are in place. How do we genuinely go together as a whole Midlands on this? And I know you've mentioned your one of the local MPs that's in Parliament as well. We've got Al Carnes is my MP, for example, as well. There's opportunities for us in those kind of political networks, but I think even on a kind of more officer basis, we need to check and challenge ourselves around that this isn't just a combined authority piece. I don't think it is, and it can't be, because if we're being honest, the strengths that really come through in the Midlands, or particularly the West Midlands, we do have some real assets in the CA kind of area, but the non-constituents such as yourselves, and yeah, that's a bit of a throwaway term, but areas like Telford, you've got some of the strengths like RBSL, some of those kind of anchor organisations at MOD, Donington. So I think we need to be conscious of that and make it clear that we're working as a totality of a region, perhaps with some localised hubs of strength. So yeah, I probably need to do some thinking on how we best tackle that across different areas, because yeah, Herefordshire will have a similar case and a story to tell, as do other parts of the region. But I think I think the skills bit hopefully is recognition that this can be done at that scale. So I think it's really, really positive.
Excellent. Aid, come off mute, mate.
Coming off good. It's kind of just answered my question, mate. It's trying to work out, obviously you've got the Herefordshire kind of standalone one, and you mentioned a Warwickshire one as well. It's understanding what they did to validate they need like a standalone one outside of the kind of the West Midlands group. And I was wondering how we can get the learning and what they did to achieve that, to assist with obviously a Telford one. So, it's just to kind of get, involved with them guys, I suppose, and see how they did their bit, etc., and take some learnings away from that.
Almost benchmarking, shall we say?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Just so I understand, if I missed something that Herefordshire and Warwickshire have done something or got something in this space, or are you referring to my reference to those two places?
My point was that obviously you've got this West Midlands group.
Yeah.
And you seem to have, if I've read this wrong, you've got like a Herefordshire one, and you've got a Warwickshire one that's outside of that.
No, yeah. So sorry, I probably wasn't clear enough then. So those two areas are part of the West Midlands regional grouping. So I think we're in a good space of having partners on board as part of this regional defence and security cluster. I think that's a really important route to bring everyone together. So I think we're definitely aligned on that. I think I was probably more thinking the kind of strategic political type level. How can we just make sure we are doubling down on that whole Midlands region as much as we can? Because I think it's naturally quite easy for us all to focus on our own places, as you'll appreciate. And I'm not too afraid with the relationship of Telford into the Combined Authority. I know there is one, but I probably need to do some talking internally about how that works and what we can do to work close as possible, I think.
What you missed early on, Charlie, is the suggestion that the Shropshire Chamber have a round table with the MPs, and the idea was to get a joint one together and hit them with this. Now the idea would be to hit them with this at the same time and say, why aren't you working collectively on this?
Yeah, that would be great. That would be really good. And if there's particular businesses and organisations that want to get involved around this regional defence and security cluster, then that would be great. I think we're in that kind of forming stage, but come kind of May, there will be April, May, there will be a kind of a website, a visible cluster for people to engage with. And I guess what I hadn't mentioned is there is resource coming from MOD on this now in terms of money. So not loads, but enough to have someone to do some of the coordination and work around this. And that needs to be reflective of the whole West Midlands, because it's a West Midlands wide cluster.
Brilliant. Charlie, can I just stop you there, because we've massively overrun and Will's
sorry.
But it's been a very important subject, and we value your contribution, I think, to take this forward. Jenny, Charlie used to maintain contact with Dan, and we use Dan as the conduit between us, but we definitely need to speak again on taking forward this idea. Jenny, I think if we took that idea to the joint MPs of the area with this and Charlie came along, and Dan came along, and Ross came along, and we got all together at the table, and just hit them with this idea of saying, why aren't we working together for this wider West Midlands belt, and this huge piece of the jigsaw puzzle that fits in that. I think that would be a way forward.
Definitely.
Right. Sorry, Brian, have you got anything to add to that? I'm conscious that you've just joined us today and we've taken up a lot of your time.
It's really interesting. I'm losing my voice. Sorry. I know it's really interesting, and Kane obviously run the defence supply chain. Do you know what I mean? So even though it's just the DFC, there's obviously Donington, Bicester, and there's actually Longtown now up in Carlisle. Do you know what I mean? And we're going back to a kind of pushed out model. So we're really keen to kind of support in any way we can and jump on board of that. Do you know what I mean? I know, we've been working with Lawrence's team to support Lawrence as much as I can in what he needs as well. So we're really keen to get seats at tables and get our voice heard to support whatever you need. So I've actually got an objective this year to get more involved. So it's really interesting. It's exciting times, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And it's definitely the way forward. So
it is, Brian. So Charlie, long story short, you've got a collective here of willing bodies of intelligence that wants to bring it to the table, stakeholder links engagement that's spade ready to deliver what you need. And we can do that. So
that's really welcome. So thanks for having me, and yeah, I look forward to working with you. I'm
I'll
all right
get that
dropping off.
presentation over to you. Thanks a lot.
Right, I'll drop off now unless you.
Thanks, Charlie. Thanks,
right, cheers all.
Thanks for today. Thanks for making the train.
No worries.
and thanks for the invite, Andy. Appreciate it.
That's a pleasure, Brian. I hope you come again. Just to finish off, then let me just say sorry for overrunning, Will, and a massive thank you to. I just wanted to roll the dice on the table today and see what happened, and what's happened has been brilliant. So thank you for that, and we need to take this forward. Will.
Yeah, Andy, thanks for putting all that hard work in and being able to extract a conversation, because sometimes people just don't open their eyes. And I think having Charlie join then, the opportunity was there, and yeah, you've made that case. You've started that conversation. So really, really happy. Thank you very much, Andy.
Pleasure.
Any of us, especially from the defence side, if any of you guys got any other questions or any other comments that you'd like to add in, any other thoughts of where we should be doing more to support this?
Can I just add, Will? So we've got an accord with Unite Union. So, but Unite does a lot of the defence, a lot with Babcock and everything else. And we were actually at Sean's fundraiser last night with Unite and with their Babcock reps. And I mean, they're quite a strong arm of support. Do you know what I mean? So I can speak with those guys, and they've got the ear, because we were talking to John Healy last night, funny enough, and they've got a lot of ears in Parliament. Do you know what I mean? So I think getting them on board to support, and they already are from me talking to them. Do you know what I mean? I think we'll add a kind of an extra bit of power to it.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. I mean, Ross, this is another example of where we want to make sure that Telford is shouting, and that no matter what activity is going on, that what we achieve is whichever combined authority we eventually end up with, that they are coming to Telford because Telford has got these resources, got these capabilities. So we really want the comms to draw in those combined authorities. Not that we're going begging to be part of the table, that we are here from strength. And I know yourself and David will be doing that, but this is another example that you've seen, and quite a good one for your first TBB meeting. So I hope you can take that away and back to the council. Thank you.